It says, she had a heart. How shall I say? Too soon made glad, too easily impressed. What does it mean? Here you will find it has been pointed out, as I have already mentioned, that it has been pointed out that she was a person with emotion, she was a person with feeling and temperament. And here, the speaker of the poem, the Duke, is actually criticizing the temperament of the lady. He says she had a heart. How shall I say? That means, how shall I consider the kind of emotion, the kind of feeling that she actually preserved? Too soon made glad, too easily impressed. Remember, the heart that she had, the kind of feeling, the kind of temperament that she had, it has been criticized by the speaker. And in this particular line, too soon made glad, that means she often felt glad, she was often impressed too easily. It is not a kind of positive remark that has been made by the speaker. As I mentioned, that one particular orientation of this particular text is to criticize the temperament of the lady, of the Duchess, and thereby justifying his own action. So therefore, when it says that she had a heart, how shall I say, too soon made glad and too easily impressed. That means it was very easy to impress her. It was very easy to make her glad, to feel her glad. So ultimately, here you will find that the critical comment, the critical remark is against the character, against the temperament of the Duchess. Anybody could impress her. Anybody could make her feel glad. She liked whatever she looked on. You know, that was the temperament, the typical fragile and frivolous orientation that had been vested on the lady. She liked whatever she looked on. So, and her looks went everywhere. It's a kind of similar kind of insinuation, probably. You will find some kind of resemblance with the presentation of the character Belinda in Rape of the Lock. When Belinda's eyes were considered with that of the sun rays or sunlight or sun. And when it was considered that like sun, it falls on all alike. The similar kind of gaze, the similar kind of impression. There also we have found that in the typical orientation of something positive, by comparing the eyes of Belinda or maybe the other 18th century women with that of the sun rays or sunlight. And when it says that equally Belinda, provided similar importance or equal importance to all. So in that particular reference, we have traced Alexander Pope criticized the temperament, the character of the lady. Similarly here also, when it says that her heart could be impressed very easily, could be make her feel glad very easily, and she liked whatever she looked on, and her looks went everywhere. So in such kind of orientation, in such kind of description that have been made here, you will certainly find that a critical bent of mind, a critical comment has been made. And then it continues in the same fashion. Sir, it was all one. My favor at her breast, the dropping of the daylight in the west, the burr of cherries, some officious fool broke in the orchard for her, the white mule she rode with round the terrace, all and each would draw from her alike the approving speech. So that was the temperament that was very much problematic. that was very much, it is menacing, and it is like a threat to this particular man, that is the Duke or the speaker of the poem. He says, therefore, he has referred to four particular things. What it says, my favor at her breast. Now, what does it implicate? Here, you will find it's a figure of speech. It is not simply breast that has been pointed out, rather the beauty of the body overall. Okay, so it's a figure of speech actually. It's the part for the whole. So here you will find that when the Duke can favor, can admire the beauty of his beloved, the beauty of the lady, it was of the same importance with the dropping of the daylight in the west, when the sun sets in the west. Or maybe any officious fool, that means any person, any employee who belong to the offices of under this dukedom, and when he is just breaking a bough of cherry and the broken orchard for her and given that particular thing to the lady, or maybe when she was riding the white mule and she was moving around the terrace. The four things. You see, the Duke's admiring words to her, the sunset, the person from any lower category, and he is presenting her the bough of cherries, or maybe when she was, or while she was riding the white mule and moving around the terrace, everything, each and everything, you will find that these are four different kinds of things and four different kinds of activities, and according to the Duke, it has its own differences. They have their own differences. They have their own importances. So ultimately, if you consider in terms of the difference, if you consider in terms of the importance, then fundamentally you will find that according to the Duke, whenever the Duchess will face them, the Duchess must feel, okay, the difference between them or among them. So she must consider that when the Duke is actually admiring me, it must have to be something more important. It was precious. It must have to be thought precious. But it was the temperament, the frivolous temperament of the Duchess, that she could not differentiate among them. Okay, now if you think in terms of some, the general formations of liberty, liberty of thought, liberty of emotions, liberty of expression, then ultimately you will consider, okay, we must consider the Duchess in its own maxim. Ultimately, we have to consider the Duchess very true to type. We have to consider the Duchess that she was not a hypocrite, right? But here you will find that when the Duke is referring to these things, we find that somehow he is deliberately discriminating among these four items. And he is actually pointing towards the temperament of the Duchess, who was unable to differentiate among these four. And that's why it says, all and each would draw from her alike the approving speech. The kind of approving speech that the person actually delivered, the Duchess actually delivered, it was quite similar to each other. And this was very much, it problematized to some extent the mind. It actually, the Duke feel disgusted in this particular form. And that's why she continues. So, all and each would draw from her alike the approving speech, or blush at least, whether it was the approving speech or whether it was the blush. Okay, she was shy, she was reserved, and her shyness actually created the blush in her cheeks. So therefore, it says that whenever these things actually happen, these four items or four things, that the equal kind of blush or equal kind of approving speech would arrive from the words or from the Duchess. And that was very much, it was disgusting to the Duke, and he felt disgusted. And that's why she continues, she thanked men, good, but thanked somehow, I know not how, as if she ranked my gift of a 900 years old name with anybody's gift. So again, the particular differentiation. I must say here that if you can consider in these words, in these lines, the temperament of the Duke. The Duke is very much proud. The Duke is a snob. Okay, the cultural snobbery, the typical kind of proud man as the Duke was, he considered that the 900 years as old name, what does it mean? The 900 years as old name, it represents the concept of Duchess, you see. She is the Duchess, and that very term Duchess has been provided by the Duke. Okay, as I've already mentioned when I was discussing on the title of this particular poem, that the Duchess is a diminutive term to some extent. Duchess is respectively a lesser important term because it is completely dependent on the term Duke. So therefore, when the Duke actually is married to the Duchess, so ultimately you will find that Duchess, this very title, is the 900 years old, title. And when the Duke is actually giving that particular title to Duchess, as he is considering them in this particular fashion, that he considers that it must have to be, a certain kind of a pride must have to be present with this particular title. And he is actually proud with his own title. He is proud with his status. He is a snob, a cultural snob. So therefore, he is suffering from a superiority complex. So therefore, he considers that it is a very more, the most important thing that a person can have. So when the Duchess has been titled as quote unquote Duchess, so therefore she must think, okay, the importance of the word, okay, the weightage of the word Duchess, she must feel it. But when she feels, it says that as if she ranked my gift of a 900 years old name with anybody's gift. So with the term anybody, you will find that he is actually the typical formation of pride that is present within this Duke. It is actually incorporating a kind of superiority inferiority angle. You will find that anybody, this particular term, is actually referring to any trivial, fragile, and non-existing particle as if. You see? That means any other person who is belonging to that household, any other person who is actually providing any particular gift to the Duchess, these are of least importance to the Duke. Okay? Because in comparison with the particular title that is being attributed to the Duchess, the Duke considers that everything is nothing simply. Okay, so therefore he says that it says, but thanked somehow, she thanked somehow. Sorry. Here it says, but thanked somehow, I know not how, as if she ranked my gift of a 900 years old name with anybody's gift. Who stood to blame this sort of trifling? So these kinds of behaviors, these kinds of trivial and triflings, activities. So these are to some extent blameworthy. But the Duke do not think that it is his own position, or he must not do something to blame the Duchess and try to rectify the Duchess, or try to scold the Duchess and therefore say that you are not doing this, you must not do this, it is not proper for you. These are not to be done by the Duke, because he is a Duke, you see. And Duke with the 900 years old name, he is the proud person, he is the superior person. So therefore, he says that who stood to blame this sort of trifling? Even had you skill in speech, which I have not, to make your will quite clear to such an one and say, so it says that ultimately I don't have that particular skill in speech, okay? It might possible that you have that particular kind of skill in your speeches and you can just, scold the woman and you can say that, okay, you are not doing something good and something proper. You must rectify yourself. You must not think in this way. You must, give importance to my 900 years of old name and so on. But I don't have that particular time. I don't have that position. I don't have that capability of uttering words anymore. So therefore he says that even had you skill in speech, which I have not, that means I don't have that skill to speak, to make your will quite clear to such an one and say, just this or that in you disgusts me. So if you do have that particular temperament, if you do have that particular skill in speech, he would certainly say probably that, okay, just this or that in you disgusts me. That means that particular temperament, that particular behavior, that particular action, that particular word, that particular reaction, okay, it is something disgusting and I don't like that. It disgusts me, so therefore you must rectify yourself. Probably you will say all these things. But if you think about me, I don't have that particular prerogative. I don't have the particular capability. I don't have that ability to speak something. I must not say something, you know. It's not that he is unable to say that. He will not say that because he is very proud. He is the Duke. So ultimately he can punish anybody, you see. Even if his wife. Ultimately that's why he says that, okay, I don't have enough time to say her. I don't have any time to warn her. I don't have enough time to say her that ultimately, okay, that particular action actually disgusts me. Here or there, you are exceeding your mark. Here you miss. Or there, exceeding your mark. So ultimately, you are crossing your limits. I don't have to say that. And if she let herself be listened so, nor plainly set her wits to yours, forsook and made excuse, even then would be some stooping. So ultimately, if I say that, if I utter these words, okay, whether I want to warn her, I want to make her rectified or something, then ultimately it's a mere stooping, you see. That it indicates that you are stooping your head in front of her. Because if she let herself be listened so, that means when you are speaking to her in this particular fashion, when you are providing warning to her, and then she is rectifying herself, she is getting the lesson and be rectified, or not plainly set her wits to use, pursue that made excuse. If she made excuses, then ultimately in every aspect, you see, even then would be some stooping. That means you are just stooping your head in front of her. That means you are breaking your superior position to her. And I don't want to do that. And I choose never to stoop, you see. So ultimately, in the process of providing somebody warning, in giving her any chance, it signifies that you are stooping your head. So such a proud man he is, you see. The typical formation of superiority complex that is present within this man, it actually says something in terms of the character of the Duke. The Duke is a superior man. The Duke is suffering from superiority complex. He is a snob. He is a cultural snob. He is a proud person, haughty person, insolent person. He is a patriot. He is an exploiter. Okay, he is exercising power, and he is dominating others. He is a dominator, ultimately. Each and every kinds of terms can be attributed to this person. So that's why he chose never to stoop. And then it continues, oh sir, she smiled, no doubt, whenever I passed her. So when she met me, whenever I passed her, she smiled at me. True. But who passed without much the same smile? So it was not for me only. The smile was not for me only. Any person who would pass her, certainly he had got the same smile in response from the Duchess. So that there lies the problem that the Duke is feeling. That I am not being provided with much more importance. I am her husband. Beside that, I am the Duke. I am the superior person or most superior person of this particular dukedom. She must show homage. She must show her humble acceptance. And that particular thing, the complete surrender, is missing from the Duchess. So there lies the threat to the Duke. It is something menacing. So therefore he says, oh sir, she smiled no doubt whenever I passed her. But who passed without much the same smile? This grew. That means this particular problem, it sustained. It grew. Okay. Day after day, the same thing actually happening again and again and again. So what would happen? I gave commands. So it is not that he is killing by himself. Okay. He is killing, he doesn't, he is not killing the Duchess with his own hands. Rather, he is giving commands. So that's why it says, I gave commands. Then all smiles stopped together. Now, this is a very important phrase, as I mentioned when I was discussing about your topic, the topic of your writing, a topic of your examination, topic for your examination. So ultimately, I have mentioned that all smiles stop together. Do you not find in this particular reference, in this particular expression, there is a direct focus on the character of the Duke? The Duke is a patriarch, the Duke is an exploiter, the Duke is a power monger to some extent, and Duke is actually exploiting others. The typical formations of superiority complex, it actually leads the Duke to think in this particular way. So that's why he considers the typical formation of cruelty. Okay, the pride, the insolence, the haughtiness. So that is being reflected and pointed out with the reference to this particular expression. Then all smiles stopped together. Remember, I don't want to keep things like this. I have to change it. I have to change the orientation. I have to change the situation. And I have to make, I have to stop all smiles. So it is indicating the death of the Duchess, therefore. Therefore, it says, this view, I give comments, then all smiles stop together. And again, in a dramatic orientation, again in a circular way, the expression continues, there she stands as if alive, you see. So that's why when she is dead, following my commands, following my orders, any person was there, okay, and he killed that person, that lady, and that's why she is standing there. So that means from a human being who is alive, she has been converted into a picture, a painting, okay, and who is hanging from the wall. So that's why you see there is the kind of aloofness to some extent, the kind of indifference within the Duke, the indifference in describing his actions, indifference in describing the painting of the last Duchess painted on the wall. Everywhere, each and every kind of orientation is being provided to justify, to underscore, to comment on the temperament and the character of the Duke. So therefore it says, there she stands as if alive. And again, the address has been made to the envoy. Then he says, will it please you rise? Now, you are sitting there and looking at the Duchess and questioning about the kind of blush that is appearing, the kind of expression the Duchess is wearing here. Now I have told you everything, or rather I have provided you the information, or I have provided you the wording probably. That, as I've already mentioned, that if the kind of proposal that you have taken or you have just brought to me, if the similar kind of orientation, the kind of quote-unquote infidelity continued in the new proposed wife, certainly I will again in any day would say, oh, there is my last Duchess painted on the wall. That means the person who will come certainly to my family, it might happen that again another painting will be hung just beside this one. So it's a kind of a threat, therefore, that is provided here also. So that's why it says, will it please you rise? We will meet the company below them. That means, as I've already mentioned, that it might happen that somehow the father of the proposed wife, or maybe the other relatives, they are just sitting downstairs, and the king or the Duke of Ferrara, he is actually speaking to the envoy, and he is stating that we will meet the company, that means the other persons who are sitting downstairs below them. I repeat, the count, your master's known munificence is ample warrant that no just pretense of mine for dowry will be disallowed. So as we have known, that similar orientation of the matter with the dowries and so everywhere you will find the similar kind of orientation has been taken for considerations. And here he is stating that ultimately the count, who is the master of this envoy, He is known for his munificence. He is known for his, to some extent, the kind of temperament that he has, the positive temperament. So it is an ample warrant that no just pretense of mine for dowry will be disallowed. That means I will get my dowry properly. Okay. It shows that though his fair daughter self, as I avowed as starting, is my object. The Duke is, to some extent, the kind of pretension is always going on with the Duke. The Duke says, okay, uh, I am not being married to that woman just because of the money, just because of the dowry I will get from the Count. Rather, my primary object is the lady, okay, the fair daughter, okay, or the fair daughter self. That is the fundamental focus of mine regarding this particular marriage. I'm not waiting for the dowry, but still, the dowry is also important. And I know that regarding paying the dowry, the Count will not do anything hectic. So that's why he says that the Count, your master's known munificence, is ample warrant that no just pretense of mine for dowry will be disallowed. Though his fair daughter self, as I avowed as at starting, is my subject. Nay, we will go down together, sir. So therefore, I must come downstairs. And then the final thing, as I've already mentioned, that the Neptune taming the seahorse. It's a sculpture actually. You see that the bronze made sculpture, and fundamentally, as I've already mentioned, that somehow whenever we are going through the poem like this one, okay, or maybe the other Victorian poems by Victorian artists and writers, we have found that somehow the Victorian art form has played a very big role in transforming the art form in the poems or in any particular form of literature written in this particular time period. But at the same time, as I mentioned, there is something symbolic, because here is a particular reference to the Neptune, the Neptune taming the seahorse. Now, fundamentally, here you will find that Neptune is also the sea god, you see, and ultimately it is to some extent being identified as Poseidon. Probably you have heard the name Greek god Poseidon, the creator of the horse. Neptune is taming the seahorse, and this particular seahorse, it's the half horse and half fish, and that particular orientation has been always been provided with the myths of the sea. Now, when you will see that the god is actually taming the seahorse, in that particular reference, you will find the particular subduing association is always being oriented. Now, if you consider the taming the seahorse, this particular term can be related with the seahorse is being referred to in terms of the females, and taming the females by Neptune, the Neptune has to be considered as a representative of the patriarchs. So it is symbolically oriented, it is symbolically represented in terms of, you see, that when a patriarch or patriarchal subjugation is being pointed out, when the seahorse will surrender in the face of the power of Neptune, or maybe when the females have been tamed by the representatives of the patriarchy who has been exemplified here by the Duke. So therefore, Neptune taming the seahorse, it's a kind of a symbolic orientation that have been provided to justify the patriarchal practice of subjugating women in a typical society. Now here it has been pointed out that notice Neptune, though taming a seahorse, it's a rarity, you see. It's something rare because you cannot find it in abundance. Which claws of Innsbruck casting bronze for me. So generally you will find here the claws of Innsbruck is a sculpture, and you see what happens in this particular section, that the Italian Renaissance setting of the poem, it actually helps us to suspend the moral judgment of the Duke, since we partly at least take the historical view. Browning was able to present the Renaissance in terms of its worldliness, pride, hypocrisy, and love of luxury. We accept the Duke's villainy in combination with his good taste and arrogance. However, we cannot entirely historicize our moral judgment, therefore. So ultimately, in this particular reference, in this particular text, here you will find to some extent that the Duke is propagating a kind of, he is a person who is endorsing the Victorian art form, but at the same time, it cannot negate the inherent villainy, the inherent cruelty, the inherent, you see, the haughtiness and insolence and pride that is present within this particular duo. So towards the end of the poem, the similar kind of orientation has been presented. That is the temperament of the duo, the subjugation of the women, you know, the patriarchal orientation, the patriarchal exploitation. Everything has been to some extent sum up, has been made to sum up with the help of this particular reference to Neptune taming the seahorse, this particular image.